Breaking news! I have a new hat. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything at Chelsea FC. I am your host, Matt, and I hope you're all having a fantastic day. So a little mix of things to talk about today, some more transfer news, some kind of funny little tidbits, actually, and just some general Chelsea rag stuff. If you enjoy the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking, sharing and subscribing, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Okay, so last night saw some international action with Spain going up against France, and it was highly contested. I didn't get to actually watch it, but I've watched the highlights and I've read a lot of the news, and it sounded like a really, really good game. France ended up edging the game 5-4 with the help of the likes of Nico Williams, who, if you've watched any of my content up until now, you would know that I would really like to see on the left wing at Chelsea. In other news, Liam Delap is gaining more endorsements from Chelsea players and pundits alike, with the likes of Cole Palmer and Alan Shearer both coming out saying, yeah, Delap looks really good, doesn't he? Cole Palmer seems excited to play with him. Alan Shearer's given him an endorsement, which, coming from a striker as good as Alan Shearer, I guess you would surmise is a good thing. So yeah, really excited about that. As I've said before, can't wait to see him in a Chelsea shirt. He absolutely offers us something different. I can't wait to see what the team looks like with a proper striker up top, right? So Nico Williams, absolutely unbelievable in the Euros. He looks so good. Him and Lamine Yamal playing in that Spain team just looked phenomenal, right? Just really, really assured, always looking dangerous. Compared to a lot of the left-wing options we've had recently, it's just the kind of guy you want to see driving your left flank, right? Lots of reporting on Cole Palmer taking the number 10 from Mykhailo Mudryk, so it really does look like that he is just not going to be an option anytime soon. But as I mentioned before, he wasn't exactly tearing up trees, so, you know, that's fine. Nico Williams looks like an excellent player, but he supposedly wants a hefty wage. At 22, 23 years old, the Spanish winger probably could command that kind of fee, but it just doesn't fit in with the wage structure, which, if you want to check out yesterday's video, I went on a bit of a rant about how I don't think we should be paying any players, despite how good they are. I don't think we should be paying anyone that much money because I don't think it's sustainable, and I think we're much likely to be able to build a project going forward for a longer time if we do maintain that wage structure that we're putting in. Nico Williams has a £50 million release clause, which is the same we paid for Neto. And personally, I think I'd rather have a Nico Williams in our team than Neto for that transfer price. So if we can find a middle ground on the wages, and if he's willing to work to that structure where he can get improvements based on his performance, then I really think we should try and make this one happen. That also connects with the other news that Arsenal are now supposedly in for Rodrigo as well. So I thought the Rodrigo thing had just kind of boiled off. There's a few tepid links saying that we're maybe still looking at him, but what has been coming out in the last few days is Arsenal are really interested. Rodrigo looks like a really good player, but I don't know, it's just an eye test thing, right? Sometimes you just see a player that you really like, don't you? And having not watched either, of them play in their teams for a whole season, I don't have a really, really solid opinion. It is mostly based on the eye test from watching them play in international tournaments and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Nico Williams just looks like, for me, a type of player that I would love to see at Chelsea. It's similar to the Salah versus Hazard debate, right? You know, it is inarguable that Salah's numbers were a lot better than Eden Hazard's were. But just for enjoying football, I'd always rather have had Hazard in my team given the choice, because I just love to watch him play. In other Arsenal news that is Chelsea related, I love this one. Supposedly, they are interested in paying $5 million to take one-to-way keeper Kepa Arrizabalaga off of our hands. In one of my most recent videos, I begged the goalkeeping gods to help us out in our current situation. And with all of the news about Mike Maignan being on the cards, possibly Rob Sanchez on his way out, and now Arsenal being in for Kepa, someone has answered those prayers. There is a goalkeeping god. I don't know what he looks like. Probably Czech, right? But yeah, man, that's wicked, isn't it? Please, Arsenal, take Kepa off of our hands. Let's talk a little bit about Kepa. What a really unusual story, start to finish, really. We bought Kepa because Courtois forced a move to Real Madrid. We won the league with Courtois, I'm pretty sure, because it was Jose Mourinho, right, that kind of made that decision, because Czech was still in the team at the time, and Czech was still playing well. Do you know what I mean? Czech was still playing well, but Courtois was up and coming. He'd smashed it at Atletico Madrid, and he was still really young. So it was 100% a case of, right, we kind of need to, make this decision now. And Courtois came in and played for us, and, we won the league, and things were looking really good. And then he forced that move through, didn't he? He just sort of came out and said, I want to go to Real Madrid. I want to go to Real Madrid. And they got him for like 30 mil as well. I don't know I can't remember off the top of my head if it was like a contractual thing. Maybe he didn't have long left on his deal. I can't, transfer fees were generally a lot lower back then as well. 30 mil back then is probably like 50 mil now, right? If you sort of account for transfer inflation. But yeah, we ended up losing Courtois and kind of being left without a solid keeper option. Kepa had just come away from a really strong season at Athletic Bilbao. He was really young. So we said, okay, we'll get this guy. And not only did we say, okay, we'll get this guy, we were so confident we spent 70 mil on him. Now, that was probably us also being backed into a corner. We really, really needed a keeper for the upcoming season. We'd just come off of a title win, so we had to try and, maintain some sort of levels, right? And Kepa, little bit of the Sanchez's about him. Do you know what I mean? He never came in and looked really, it was a weird one with Kepa. He did look really confident sometimes, but he made mistakes. It wasn't the same as Sanchez. Like, Sanchez just scares me. Do you know what I mean? It's like I see Sanchez in goal sometimes and I'm just like, you look like I feel. Do you know what I mean? You look like you are, as soon as something comes towards you, you are going to tip it over, kick it in the back of your net. It's going to ghost through you somehow. There is just this tangible level of anxiety about the ball coming close to Sanchez, isn't there? Like recently, at the end of last season, it was better. He's definitely been better, less mistakes. Things kind of changed with Sanchez after that weird game. I can't remember who it was against, but there was a game where he decided to go long against the decision, obviously, of Maresca, because Maresca was always like, keep it short, but he decided to go long. It ended up costing us a goal, and he came out of the team for a couple of games, and then when he came back in, all of a sudden, after that, he just kind of looked a bit better. But anyway, going back to Kepa. Kepa, 70 mil, 7-year deal as well, really, really long deal. That was the first time, long before Bluco, we still had Abramovich in. I think that was when Marina Granovskaya was kind of running the show at that point. And yeah, it was just crazy, wasn't it? Like 70 mil, 7-year deal, really young keeper. The optics looked good, and then it just didn't play out. And there was that really famous game where Maurizio Sarri was in charge, and Sarri wanted to take Kepa off for a penalty because we had Willy Caballero on the bench, and Willy Caballero had, he was kind of like Tim Krul for Newcastle, wasn't he? He just had a good shot-stopping record. So for that moment where we needed to win that game, Sarri decided, right, I'm taking Kepa off, and Kepa said no. And the world went crazy, right? Because no one had ever seen, especially a goalkeeper, no one had ever seen a player. You see players all the time when they get taken off and they look frustrated and annoyed and dishevelled or whatever, but you've never seen a player go, no, I'm not coming off. I think, I've seen Cole Palmer and Noni Madueke a couple of times look shocked when, any of our respective 78 managers we've had in the last few years have sort of brought them off because we needed to change things up. Cole Palmer especially sometimes turns around and looks really surprised. And that's kind of normal, right? You can kind of expect that from the better players in your team. But for Kepa just to point blank say no and completely disregard the authority of the Chelsea manager was crazy. So ever since then, things just were up and down, and, obviously, Kepa spent the last few years out on loan. Don't know how he does it, but Kepa managed to get a loan to Real Madrid at some point because Courtois had got injured, right? And again, kind of like we did, they looked at him and said, okay, that'll do. But I'm pretty sure he ended up not even playing that much because they had another sort of backup keeper in their ranks who ended up getting more of those games. And then obviously he's gone to Bournemouth on loan. Bournemouth have done really well. I can't concretely say I know Kepa had a big part to do with that because I'm not sure what their entire goalkeeping situation is, but I haven't heard, this is the thing about news, right, is players don't often get praised for doing all right. Players get praised for either being amazing or being anything less than all right. Anything that's negative, you'll hear about it in the news. Anything that is a little bit positive, you probably won't hear about, but anything that's like unbelievable, you'll hear about. So Kepa, he's had a couple of loan seasons. His stock hasn't gone up, but we've had him. I mean, it must be like 6 years now. Do you know what I mean? He must have one, maybe two at max, but it feels like a really long time that we've had him. And now finally, someone is willing to come in and pay actual real life money to take him off our hands. Arsenal love buying used up Chelsea players, don't they? There is a long list of Chelsea players that have gone to Arsenal. This is really telling as well, isn't it? Because I suppose, just thinking off the top of my head, you would probably say the most successful of those has been Kai Havertz. I know they took David Luiz, Willian, Cech. Do you know what I mean? Cech did okay, but, he didn't win him anything, or, wasn't like a absolute game changer for them. Arteta seems to like a project, doesn't he? Arteta's like, no one thinks you've got it, but I think you've got it. I think I could get the best out of you. And, he seemed to do that with Havertz. Havertz hasn't set the world alight. He's still a very divisive figure. He's obviously done better than he did at Chelsea because he's being used maybe in a way that suits his play style more. But again, no players in recent memory have gone to Arsenal and absolutely set the world on fire. So, and Kepa's not going to compete with David Raya, is he? Kepa is going to be a backup keeper. That's if big asterisk of an if on this one. Kepa is not going to go to Arsenal and challenge David Raya for that starting spot, because David Raya has unequivocally been one of the better goalkeepers in the Premier League for the last few seasons. That is, for sure. So I just thought that was a funny one, right? It's like anyone, I'd have been happy for anyone to take Kepa off of our hands at this point. I don't think at this point you can even really see it as a loss of money, because it's already been a loss of money. If we didn't get anything, if we got more than 10 mil for Kepa, you might feel okay, but he's ultimately cost us so much over that 7-year stretch or whatever that he's been here, that it doesn't really matter. It was always going to be a loss. So to get anything from him at all feels like free money. Do you know what I mean? It feels like we could just lose this player for nothing, but if we can end up with a few quid out of him, do you know what I mean? That pays, for instance, getting rid of Kepa. A, gets his wages off the books, and you know me, if you've watched any of my videos, I do not like big wages. A, it gets his wages off the books. B, it pays to send Jadon Sancho back to Man United. Do you know what I mean? So it is an up in some ways, but it was always going to be a loss over the time. So yeah, Kepa, what do we think, guys? Are we sad to see Kepa go? I have seen, not recently, but over the course of our last few years with the goalkeeping situation being what it is, I have seen people be like, give Kepa a chance, because Kepa's another one of those play with his feet kind of keepers. Do you know what I mean? That's his kind of natural style. And what he wasn't very good at was shot stopping and being really kind of assured in the back line. So what do we think, guys? Kepa, are we happy? Are we sad? I am ambivalent, I guess. Do you know what I mean? If anything, like I say, if we can get 5 mil from him and he goes to Arsenal and stinks up the joint, buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing about that. I don't think Kepa will ever do anything again like he did with Sarri, and he hasn't since. Do you know what I mean? Kepa has not been a big headline figure at all over the last few years. He's just kind of faded into obscurity. He hasn't felt like part of the team for a long time. Every time he's gone out, it hasn't been really thinking, he can go out and get some experience so he can come and fight his way back into the team. It feels like it's always been, can he just get good enough so someone takes him off our hands, or we just get to the end of his contract so we don't have to pay him anymore. So maybe that's the end of the Kepa saga that's been going on for a long time now, but it is not one I will be super sad to see be over. A little bit more centre-back news. We are supposedly still talking about Jared Branthwaite. I haven't seen anything saying we're actually talking to Everton about it, but the links still persist. Likely, it's not one of the big ones at the moment, and the same with Jarell Hatto of Ajax. So evidently, we're still looking for a reasonably young and assured centre-back option, probably to come into our first team. Personally, I'm Mark Gurhey, and if it isn't Mark Gurhey, let's just keep Trevor Chalobah, right? Let's just keep Trevor Chalobah. He's not on crazy wages. He's an academy product. He's connected to the fan base. He's connected to the team. He's been an consummate professional throughout all of this weirdness that we've been through, where he didn't come on the preseason tour, and you know the whole story, man. He's got out. I'm going to Crystal Palace. We've brought him back. Chalobah, we're going to sell him because we'll get really good money for him, and that will help us fund a lot of these other moves and help balance the books and stuff. But if we're not going to keep Trevor Chalobah, my first port of call would be Mark Gurhey. I think that, Crystal Palace, not unbelievable. They've been really, really good for a little while. But it's the Crystal Palace stuff, obviously the leadership element, but the fact that he was such an important player to us in those Euros as well. He's a little bit older as well, do you know what I mean? And having a prime centre-back, a centre-back in his prime, should I say, I think is just going to be good. Do you know what I mean? I think it's one that the fan base would like. I don't think it's a risky move. I think getting Mark Gurhey for anything up to 50 mil is a good deal, despite us selling him in the first place. So, these links with Jarell Hatto and Jared Branthwaite and, maybe there's some others. I haven't seen loads of centre-back news, to be honest. We actually do still have quite a lot. Axel Disasi's probably on his way out. I haven't seen anything about Badiashile. We'll probably keep Badiashile because he's a reasonably comfortable left footer and is a decent deputy for Levi Colwill. We've got the likes of Josh Achiempong and Aaron Anselmino will probably get a loan, I guess, but Josh Achiempong probably isn't going anywhere either. So we are really looking for just that one strong centre-back figure to come in and partner. We're looking for Levi Colwill's partner at the end of the day. For me, it's Mark Gurhey. There's chats about Branthwaite, Jarrell Hatto. Talk to me in the comments. What do you think? Do you know of anyone that's available on a steal? Is there any obvious, big names that are maybe a little bit older and would want a little bit more wages that you think would come in and steady the ship? Let's generate some dialogue, man. Let's have a chat about it. The centre-back situation isn't massively being talked about at the moment. It is light links here and there. So yeah, like I said, for me it's Mark Gurhey, but tell me what you guys think. So a little bit more international news. Andre Santos and Esteval Willian both featured in Brazil's game against Ecuador. Now, the game was a 0-0, so nothing massively of note to talk about, but the fact that both of them have been picked and tried out by Carlo Ancelotti is a good sign. Esteval Willian started the game on the right wing, coming off later, and Andre Santos came off the bench. So it's a shame that not much happened in the game, because obviously we're all looking for little insights about how these guys might fit into our team, or, it's great seeing Esteval be amazing in Brazil and Andre Santos being wicked in France, but playing in a big international game is definitely a good way to get a proper look at someone and how they can deal with some of the higher kind of opposition, like Moises Caicedo, for example. Do you know what I mean? Moises Caicedo in Ecuador, that's a top level player. So yeah, it would have been nice to see some of them contribute a little bit more than maybe they did, but ultimately the fact they're getting picked in the first place is a really, really good sign. Loan news, it looks like Amari Kellerman might be heading out for a championship loan. We bought Amari Kellerman for 20 mil from Aston Villa, which was kind of crazy. That was, again, one of those facilitation deals, right, where we want to sell a player to someone and they want to buy them, but in order to balance their books, they need to sell someone at the same time. We took Omari Kellyman off of Aston Villa, kind of like how we took João Felix off of Atletico Madrid to facilitate the deals for Ian Matson and Conor Gallagher, respectively. So yeah, Omari Kellyman has done 0 in a Chelsea shirt so far. I think the reason for that is he's been injured quite a lot of the time, but even before that, we weren't seeing lots of him. So it makes sense, right? He needs to get into a team and start playing football. He's not strong enough, to consider having like a Tyreek George style role in the Chelsea first team this year. So I 100% approve that what we do is try and get him a championship loan where he can hopefully get a lot of minutes. I honestly don't think we're going to see Omari Kellerman fight his way into the first team. It just doesn't feel like it's going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? We'll see later down the line. But if we can make that 20 mil back for him, minimum, then whatever, that's kind of going to sort of balance itself out towards the end, isn't it? And to finish off today, we are just going to talk about some potential outgoings. Antonio Conte's Napoli are interested supposedly in Noni Madueke. Napoli have just come off of winning the Scudetto, which is what happens when Antonio Conte is your manager, right? He wins leagues. He maybe hasn't always had the best showings in the Champions League, but if there is one thing Antonio Conte knows how to do, it is win a league title. So yeah, supposedly he's interested in Madueke to continue with his team. Also, apparently Hudson-Odoi from Nottingham Forest, obviously another ex-Chelsea boy. I would be sad to see Madueke go, but I understand it from a boring political, financial aspect because, as Chelsea fans, we're all financial experts now because we have to be to keep enjoying following our club. I would imagine we would get, I've sort of mentioned it before, 50 mil. Doesn't seem outrageous for Noni Madueke, does it? I think because he's so young as well, and he has shown these amazing flashes, managers will look at someone like Noni Madueke and be like, I can get it out of him. I can 100% get it out of him. Chelsea don't seem to be looking to give people more than 2 seasons, really, to kind of make their impact. Madueke's this will be going into his 3rd season, I'm pretty sure. I think Madueke's had 2.5 seasons with us now. He was a January buy, was he not? Did we not get Noni Madueke at the same time we pipped Arsenal for Mykhailo Mudryk, which was, less said about that, the better, I guess. But yeah, Madueke, you could see Conte enjoying having a player like Madueke. He's fast, he's pacey, he's arrogant, got a bit of ego. Maybe Conte is what Madueke needs. Conte is not a gentle parenting kind of manager. Do you know what I mean? He is going to scream at you and it's going to be aggressive and it's going to be hard. But maybe that's the kind of manager that Noni Madueke needs. And you would have to think, wouldn't you? Noni Madueke's pace would alone, do you know what I mean, regardless of any of those other attributes in the Italian game, you think he'd really going to stand out just for how fast he is. So that's it for today. Tell me what you think, guys. A little bit of a myriad of news. Some of the new boys playing in the international stage look good. Tentative links with other players, nothing really solid yet. You know, kind of like we all knew how Liam Delap was coming, and that felt really odds on. Maignan still seems to be the closest we've got to that, but you know, there's a lot of other things in the works for, you know, left wingers, and centre backs seems to be, you know, something that we're going to be looking at approaching for next season as well. We are now, I got it wrong the other day. I said we were 4 days, and I think today is like the 6th day. So we've got, what is it? This is the 6th today, isn't it? Yeah. So I will just say, during this video, I haven't watched it yet, but I've just seen what is some potentially good news. I am an avid follower of other Chelsea content creators, and George Benson, check out his channel if you haven't already. Absolutely, you probably have. If you're coming across me, you might even have been linked there through George Benson. But he's a huge Chelsea YouTuber, really animated guy, you know, really thoughtful and always putting out really, really strong content. He has just released a video, and I've only seen the title, but if the title is true, then it bears talking about. Chelsea ready €100 million Ekitike bid, which is... I'm kind of reserved on that one because I am conscious of getting another Nicholas Jackson type guy in. Although I guess you got to say, look at how well Marmoush has done coming from the same team, going into Pep Guardiola's Man City. Marmoush has done really well. If Ekitike can come in and make the same kind of impact on us that Marmoush has on Man City, a struggling Man City as well, then yeah, I'm for that. And that's like £80 million, isn't it? So that's cool. He also talks a little bit about Hato to Chelsea, but the other thing that I'm going to watch this video as soon as I'm finished recording mine. He says Trevor Chalobah stays. So in this video, I've just done this big thing where I'm being doom and gloom about Trevor Chalobah going. But if there is a chance of Trevor Chalobah staying, I think that's a great, great, great thing. And go and check out George's video. Do you know what I mean? If you've watched this video and you haven't seen George's yet, go and check it out, and then we'll find out together about the Trevor Chalobah situation, right? So that is actually it for today's video. Now, sorry about that little addendum. I just checked it out as I was recording this video and thought it was worth adding in. I've been Matt. This has been the Stamford Sync. Have a wonderful day, and I will catch up with you guys really soon. Peace.